Hello, Professor Kentley here. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about examples of awkward English. And these examples come from real American newspaper headlines. These are generally from small town newspapers where maybe they don't have the best or most professional writing staff or proofreaders or editors. And so sometimes ambiguous errors or ambiguous sentences can be seen in such papers, and these have been collected by the Columbia Journalism Review, so professional journalists at Columbia University, their journalism department, I think, or their journal, academic journal that's associated with the journalism department at Columbia has collected these, and they publish these examples from time to time, and they tend to be quite interesting. So newspaper headlines tend to be very concise. So in order to be more concise, some words get dropped out. Function words like relative pronouns, relative clauses get reduced to participle phrases. Helping verbs get dropped, like in past tense or in passive verb expressions, and that can lead to ambiguity sometimes, as well as the word choice itself. So let's look at some examples. Okay, first example, 12 on their way to cruise among dead in plane crash. This looks kind of weird. All right, so when people sign up for a cruise, like a luxury cruise, a boat trip, especially in the US, they'll go to a travel agent and book a package that includes the cruise itself on the cruise ship and also a flight from their city to the city on the coast where they get on the cruise ship. So that's probably what they're talking about. 12 people who died in a plane crash were people who were on the way to a cruise. It was part of a cruise package. But it sounds like somebody's taking a cruise among a plane crash. They're going to take a cruise and look at the plane crash like it's a weird cruise attraction. This sounds morbid and dark. Okay, number 2, arson suspect held in Massachusetts fire. So often when you say suspect is held, that means the person has been arrested, a crime suspect. The person has been arrested and is being held in prison. But it sounds like maybe the police are holding the person in a fire. Like, that's a pretty drastic punishment. Holding the suspect in a fire to maybe punish him. Yeah. Okay. 3, astronaut takes blame for gas in spacecraft. This, of course, is the International Space Station. So it's actually about a gas leak. And so maybe an astronaut on the space station did something wrong and caused a gas leak inside the space station. But it sounds like he personally passed gas, farted or something, which would be silly. Number 4, ban on soliciting dead in Trotwood. Trotwood would be the name of some town. It tells you it's a small town newspaper. So soliciting refers to, say, going door to door to sell things or approaching people to sell them, like door-to-door salespeople going door-to-door, knocking on people's door to sell something or to ask for donations for something, which of course is very annoying. Obviously, I can see why you'd want to ban it. So ban here is maybe some proposed law to ban this practice in a town. So what this means is maybe an attempt to pass a law to ban soliciting is dead. The attempted ban, the attempt to make this a law is dead. It's failed. But it sounds like, okay, you shouldn't solicit dead people. You shouldn't go up to dead people and solicit them. That's not a very nice thing to do to dead people. Okay, so you get this humorous alternate interpretation. Number 5, British left Waffles on Falkland Islands. Okay. So some of you might be a little bit young and you don't remember the Falklands War. So Britain owns a small group of islands called the Falklands off the coast of Argentina, South America. And for a long time, the two countries have disputed ownership of the islands, which in Spanish is called Las Malvinas. But basically, Britain has occupied these islands for a long time, and there are British farmers there. In the 1980s, Argentina was under a dictatorship, and the government, I guess, to score points with the public, invaded the Falklands and took it over. And it took a couple of weeks for the British Navy to get there, but they responded. Britain and Argentina fought a small war over this, and of course won. And so this is talking about the British. So it sounds like the British soldiers, or the sailors and soldiers, left some waffles behind. Waffles, like the kind you eat, on the Falklands. What this really means is this. Waffle can be a verb in kind of colloquial English, and that means they equivocate. That is, they kind of say one thing and then say another, or they change their minds. They're not very clear. They're kind of saying one thing to one group and one thing to another, or they're kind of not taking a clear, they avoid taking a definite position on an issue. So this is talking about the British left, leftist politicians like the Labour Party, or liberal, progressive, or socialist politicians. The British left is waffling or not taking a clear position on the Falklands War. That's what it's really about. But it sounds like they left behind breakfast food on the islands. 6, chef throws his heart into helping feed needy. So hopefully this means that he's throwing in his enthusiasm, throwing in his heart. But it sounds weird, like, okay, cannibalism or something weird. 7, Chinese Apeman dated. So this is talking about archaeological remains being dated. That is, archaeologists use chemical tests to determine the exact age of some remains. And so the remains have been dated. The date when this creature existed and lived was determined by chemical testing. But it sounds like, okay, they try to set him up with a nice woman or something and go on a date. Similar thing, 8, Joe remains cremated. Remains of some, famous ancient person were cremated. Or the remains of some famous person named Joe were cremated. So the remains, that is the body. So this is a noun. The remains, the body, what's left of Mr. Joe, was cremated. But it sounds like he remains cremated. Yeah, he's still cremated. He hasn't come back to life yet. He's still in the jar, his ashes. 9, cold wave linked to temperatures. Okay, this is kind of what we call a comment on the obvious, or in slang, sort of a no-duh statement. So, duh in slang, kind of like something that a stupid person says, like, duh. So, a no-duh, like, that's obvious kind of statement. Cold wave linked to temperatures. That's kind of obvious. That's not a very informative headline. I think they could rephrase it and make it a little more informative. 10, complaints about NBA referees growing ugly. So NBA, the National Basketball Association. So what is growing ugly here? Are the complaints growing ugly, like increasingly aggressive, hostile complaints about referees and their decisions? Or does it mean that the referees are getting ugly? Yeah, they need to lose weight and maybe... 11, deer kill 130,000. It sounds like deer are on the rampage, killing people and killing a lot of people. Yeah, I don't think that's true. What this means is this. A kill is when maybe the killing of some animals. So what happens sometimes in the U.S. is maybe population of deer or rabbit in a certain area might get out of hand. And if there's a severe overpopulation of deer or rabbit, this can actually be bad for the environment and for forests and ecosystems. So the state government will allow hunters and ranchers and farmers to go kill a bunch of animals. This sounds bad, but it's really important for the environment, because too many animals eating your plants, that can cause damage to farmers and to the environment. So this means that the number of killed number of deer killed in a deer kill numbered 130,000. Could have been phrased better. 12 drunken drivers paid $1,000 in 1984. Does it mean that they paid $1,000 in fines or that they were paid $1,000? Good job driving while drunk. You didn't cause any accidents. Here's $1,000. Congratulations. Okay, similarly, 13 drunk gets 9 months in violin case. Does it mean they locked him up in a violin case? Probably not. It probably refers to some kind of crime case involving a violin. A crime case involving a violin. Maybe he stole a violin. I don't know. 14, Enfields couple slain. Police suspect homicide. Another comment on the obvious. So Enfields is some small town somewhere, and the couple was slain, that is murdered, killed. Police suspect homicide. Yeah, it's kind of obvious. If they were slain, they were murdered, then that's homicide. That's not a very informative headline. 15, enraged cow injures farmer with axe. Was the cow using an axe to injure the farmer? Yeah, I didn't know cows could do that. Probably it's the farmer who has an axe, not the cow. In which case, farmer with axe. Why do they say with axe? It's kind of unnecessary information in the headline. Eye drops off shelf. So, eye drops, what you put in your eyes, have been taken off the shelf. Maybe there was a product recall, product was defective, and so stores had to pull these eye drops, this product, off the shelf. But it sounds like someone's eyeball rolled off a shelf. 17, Hershey bars protest. You can imagine some chocolate bars protesting. Yeah, this actually refers to the Hershey factory in Pennsylvania, and they have a long history of not treating their workers very well. And so the workers are protesting, and the company is trying to ban or bar protests by the workers. So Hershey bars protesting. 18, hospitals are sued by 7-foot doctors. Okay. These are really tall doctors. They're 7 feet tall. Or do they mean 7 podiatrists? It would be better to say podiatrist, the proper term for a foot doctor, or something else. Sounds like some really tall doctors are suing. 19, if strike isn't settled quickly, that is a labor strike, workers going on strike, it may last a while. Yeah, that's kind of obvious. Another comment on the obvious. Okay, 20, include your children when baking cookies. Include them how? Like in helping you to bake cookies, showing them how? Hopefully not including them in the recipe. That would be not nice. 21, this is an old one. Iraqi head seeks arms. You're probably picturing some head looking for arms, physical arms, but this means the head of Iraq, this is referring back to Saddam Hussein, the former dictator, was looking to buy arms, military arms, weapons. So the head, the leader of Iraq, they should have just said Hussein seeking arms or seeking weapons. 22, juvenile court, that is a court for juveniles, like teenagers who commit crimes, to try shooting defendant. They're going to try to shoot the defendant, the person who's being put on trial for crime. Are they going to try to shoot the defendant? Yeah, that doesn't sound nice. So here, try means to put on trial. To put somebody on trial is to try. It's kind of a legal term. So they're going to put a shooting defendant on trial. Not they're going to try to shoot him. 23, kids make nutritious snacks. Yum. Okay. I think kids are making snacks. 24, killer sentenced to die for second time in 10 years. Wow, I didn't know you could die twice. I think it means the killer has been sentenced a second time for a different crime. He has been convicted and sentenced to the death penalty in a second case. The second of 2 cases in 10 years. I don't think that means they're going to try to kill him twice. 25, local high school dropouts cut in half. Okay. Yeah, I know you want to discourage kids from dropping out of high school. They stop going to school and they just drop out. But cutting them in half doesn't sound like it would be very helpful. Oh, I think they mean the dropout rate. The rate of dropouts. has been cut in half. I think that's what they mean. 26, lung cancer in women, mushrooms. I think mushrooms, like in the sense of, in a colloquial sense of, as a verb, to expand rapidly. So lung cancer is, on the increase, is rapidly increasing, not female mushrooms. I didn't know you could tell. How do you tell a male and female mushroom apart? I don't know. Just mushrooms in the grocery store. 27, man eating piranhas mistakenly sold as pet fish. I think they put, first of all, man eating should be hyphenated. There should be hyphen. Man eating piranha, that itself would be a little more clear. But of course, we know that piranhas eat people, not just men, by the way. So you don't even need this, just piranha mistakenly sold as pet fish, not a man who was eating a piranha was sold as a fish. Yeah, they couldn't tell the difference between a man who's eating a piranha versus a fish, and they thought he was a fish. 28, man struck by lightning faces battery charge. Yeah, you've been struck by lightning. Can you charge my battery? Maybe my car battery? No. Battery is a legal term for beating someone up. You hear the phrase assault, which is attacking someone physically, and battery, which is repeatedly hitting or beating somebody up. So a charge, they're being charged with a crime. A battery charge here in this case means they're being charged with the crime of battery. And the fact that he was struck by lightning, I think, is not relevant to the case. Yeah, he was struck by lightning and then he beat up somebody and is arrested and charged with battery, but it's definitely confusing. 29, miners refuse to work after death. Whose death? Their own death? Like those dead miners, they're refusing to work. They're so lazy. Oh, I think they mean some other miners died, and so the miners who are still alive are refusing to work because obviously the mine is not safe. I hope that's what they mean. 30, never withhold herpes infection from loved one. I think they mean information about your herpes infection. If you have herpes, you should not withhold the information about your herpes from your significant other. I don't think it means you should share your herpes with loved ones. Okay. 31, new vaccine may contain rabies. So contain, obviously, like, the vaccine contains, something. It contains rabies. Rabies is a disease, for example, that wild animals transmit. So if a wild animal bites you, you need to get a vaccine for rabies. The animal might have rabies, and if you don't get vaccinated, you have to take a series of shots so that the rabies, I guess it's a bacteria or virus, doesn't grow in you because it can be fatal for dogs and even for humans who are bitten by animals. So not that the vaccine contains rabies, like it'll give you rabies, but rather it will stop the spread of a disease. So to contain a disease means to stop the spread of a disease. I think that's what they mean. The new vaccine is going to stop the spread of rabies, not that it's going to contain rabies and give it to you. 32, a new study of obesity looks for a larger test group. Okay, what do you mean a larger test group? Yeah, like a larger number of people or just bigger people, more obese people who are fatter. Yeah, I think they mean a larger group size. 33, new housing for elderly not yet dead. Obviously you're going to build housing for elderly people who have not yet died, but I think that a plan for building new housing is not dead. The plan has had some problems, but the plan is not yet dead. That could have been phrased better. Housing like a nursing home. So they're talking about maybe a nursing home, and the plans for a new nursing home have had trouble, but the plans are not yet dead. 34, plane too close to ground, crash probe told. Okay, that's kind of obvious. It was too close to the ground. That's not a very insightful headline. Maybe the pilot was for some reason flying too close to the ground. But otherwise it sounds like a comment on the obvious. 35, police begin campaign to run down jaywalkers. So jaywalkers refers to people who cross the street illegally, like they don't cross at the light, cross in the middle of the street, or maybe when the crosswalk light is red, they still cross anyway. That's a jaywalker. It's a term for a person who crosses the street in an illegal manner. In some places in the U.S., it is still technically illegal. Police very rarely give tickets for it, but it's possible. So the police are beginning a campaign to run down jaywalkers. Like they're sitting in the car, they see a jaywalker, and they hit the gas, vroom, I'm going to run over the jaywalker. I don't think that's what they mean. I don't think the police are going to run them over with their cars. Rather, I think they mean track down jaywalkers. They're going to try to identify jaywalkers and track them down, identify them so that they can give them a ticket. I hope that's what they mean. 6, Queen Mary having bottom scraped. I don't think they mean the Queen of England, but rather a famous cruise ship called the Queen Mary. It was a famous cruise ship, and the ship is getting its bottom scraped and repaired and refurbished. Scrape off rust and other stuff. 37, this refers to President Reagan, president of the U.S. in the 1980s. Reagan wins on budget, but more lies ahead. So it means he had to fight with Congress to get his budget proposal passed for the federal government's budget. So he wins on the budget, but more lies ahead. I think that means more work lies ahead. More work remains to be done on the budget, on spending plans. But it sounds like more lies, as in untruths, falsehoods. And if you don't like Reagan, you might easily agree with that interpretation that his budget is based on a bunch of lies and falsehoods and false ideas. 38, red tape holds up new bridges. That sounds like it might not be a strong way to hold up a bridge with red tape. Actually, red tape refers to things like government regulations and bureaucracy and requirements that one has to go through in order to maybe construct a new bridge. There are all kinds of regulations and procedures that you have to go through to build a new bridge. So this means that the bureaucracy, the regulations, are preventing the construction of new bridges, not red tape, literally. Safety experts say school bus passengers should be belted. Do you mean required to wear a seatbelt? Or do you mean you punish them by whipping them with a belt? That's an old style of punishment. Whipping somebody with your belt. Okay, I don't think so. I think that would be illegal. I think that means they should be required to wear seatbelts. 40, this sounds kind of morbid. Nicklaus was a famous golf player a long time ago. Shot off woman's leg. Helps Nicklaus to 66. That's like a golf score, I think. So it sounds like he's using a woman's leg, but actually means like maybe he shot the ball and it bounced off a woman's leg and then landed in the hole. I think that's what it means. Next, something went wrong in jet crash. Expert says, yeah, okay. Comment on the obvious. Why did it crash? Something went wrong. Yeah, okay. We know that, but can you be a little more specific? 42, squad helps dog bite victim. So a police squad is helping, that is a group of police officers. Are they helping a dog to bite a victim? Like maybe a police dog wants to bite somebody? Or are they helping a person who is the victim of a dog bite? I think that's what they mean. 43, stiff opposition expected to casketless funeral plan. So a casket is a big wooden box that dead people are buried in. But of course, some people might not like that for environmental reasons or because of the extreme cost. They're very expensive. And so this is about some plan to maybe allow people the option of being buried without caskets to save costs and better for environmental reasons. but there's stiff opposition. Now, the phrase stiff opposition sounds funny because stiff can refer to like a dead person, because after a person dies, the muscles tense up, the muscles stiffen. It is a natural process that happens after death. And so sometimes stiff is a slang term for a dead person. He's a stiff. You hear this in like, crime movies and such. Oh, he's a stiff. So stiff opposition sounds kind of funny here. Like dead people are opposing this. 44, stolen painting found by tree. Oh, the tree is saying, hey, I found it. Here it is. Or was it found next to a tree? Okay. 45, survivor of Siamese twins joins parents. Okay. So Siamese twins, that's an old term for conjoined twins. Two babies are born, they're physically joined, their bodies are joined, and it takes maybe delicate surgery to separate them. In this case, one of them died, one survived, and so the survivor joins the parents after getting out of the hospital, but it sounds kind of morbid. 46, teacher strikes idle kids. So idle as an adjective means they're lazy, they're not doing something, so it sounds like a teacher is hitting kids who are idle, kids who are lazy and they're not doing anything. But I think the intended meaning is that the teachers are going on strike. They're protesting maybe lack of pay, working conditions. So a teacher strikes. Idle, in this case, idle is a verb. So the strike is idling the kids. It means it leaves the kids with nothing to do. To idle means to leave somebody with nothing to do. It's idling the kids. The strikes idle the kids. 47, two sisters reunited after 18 years in checkout counter. It must have been a very long line, very long wait. Or they were separated, and then 18 years later, they happened to discover each other at a checkout counter line in a store. I think that's what they mean. 48, from the times of the old Soviet Union, two Soviet ships collide, one dies. I didn't know ships could die. Or maybe they mean a sailor on one of the ships died. Yeah, that's not very clear. 49, typhoon rips through cemetery, hundreds dead. Really? I think that's two separate things. The typhoon killed hundreds of people and it ripped through a cemetery, or kind of ripped through it, kind of colloquial. It kind of went through in a very violent manner through a cemetery, did some damage there. But does it mean that it maybe killed the dead people there again? Or that sounds weird. I think those are two different things that are not related and shouldn't be put together in this headline. It's confusing. 50, war dims hope for peace. Yeah, kind of a comment on the obvious. Yeah, war makes peace prospects kind of dim. Okay. Not a very insightful headline. So we have seen here examples of headlines that are unclear, sometimes because a function word, like a helping verb, an auxiliary verb, was left out, or they kind of compress things together and things sound confusing and ambiguous. And usually better newspapers, like big city newspapers, will have better proofreaders and better writers, but it's not unusual to see mistakes like this in small town newspapers, probably not just in the US, but in other countries too. I'm sure you can find other mistakes in different countries. And likewise, if you're interested, local news stations. So in a lot of countries, there are local news stations that broadcast. Maybe they have an evening local news broadcast. Just about every American TV station or Canadian TV station has one of these shows. But also in other countries, in Europe and the UK and Australia. And you can easily find what are called blooper reels. A blooper is like somebody makes a mistake on air while filming. Maybe a TV show or a movie, or live on air during a live news show. So you can easily find blooper reels. So reel as an old tape reel. that is the wind-up container that held old-style videotape. So these are called blooper reels. Bloopers are mistakes that actors make. So you can go to YouTube and you can easily find compilations of bloopers made by journalists on TV, sometimes major news broadcasting companies, but especially small town news shows, local news shows from the US, but also from other countries, from Australia to Mexico to Russia, and they can be quite funny too, in case you're interested in seeing some interesting insights into local cultures. Okay, I hope this has been not only fun, but also a little helpful for understanding English grammar and possible ambiguities in English grammar, especially when you try to shorten things. Okay, so that is all for now, and I will hopefully see you in a later video. Goodbye.